How do you get to a point where no one, and I mean absolutely no one, can get under your skin? Where their words slide off you like water on smooth stone, where their moods and actions don't disturb your peace. It all begins with one powerful truth. Your peace is your responsibility, not your partner's job, not your friend's role, not something others are required to give you through their behavior. It's something you guard, nourish, and choose no matter what the world throws at you. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A colleague says something petty. A stranger throws shade on the internet. You don't react. Not because you're shut down, but because you've discovered something freeing. What people do reflects them. How you respond, that's all yours. Their harsh words, that's their pain showing. Their sarcasm, that's their hurt speaking. And if you let every eye roll, every sarcastic remark, every cold glance disturb your balance, you're basically giving away your peace like spare change. So what do you do instead? You stay silent. But not the kind of silence that builds walls or hides wounds. The kind that comes from strength. The kind that says, I choose not to engage. That's your power. Not saying anything when you easily could. Not reacting when they expect you to. That's maturity. Because real peace isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just stays. That doesn't mean you let people treat you poorly. It means you pause. You give yourself space between what triggers you and how you respond. In that space, something powerful happens. Growth. Most people live in reaction mode. Someone offends them and instantly they snap. But if you can take a breath, count to 2, think before you act, you move from emotional reflex to emotional control. You don't owe your energy to every conflict. You don't owe your peace to someone else's bad day. When you understand that deeply, something changes. You stop jumping into chaos. You stop responding to every spark someone tries to throw your way. You stay grounded. You stay focused. You stay calm, not cold, just clear. That's the difference. Detaching emotionally doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting every emotion decide the course of your day. You still feel, but you no longer drown in every feeling. And what about when someone really hurts you, not just annoys or frustrates, but truly wounds you? That's where forgiveness shows up. But let's be real, forgiveness isn't a gift you give to them. It's a gift you give to yourself. Carrying resentment is like walking with a backpack full of bricks, expecting them to feel the weight. You forgive not because they apologized or changed, but because your own peace is too valuable. You don't need their closure, you need your freedom. Imagine that, a life where chaos surrounds you but doesn't live inside you, where insults come but you don't absorb them, where drama knocks, but you never open the door. That isn't a fantasy. That's a practice. You practice putting your peace before your pride. You practice taking the higher road, even when the lower road is screaming your name. You practice power in quiet responses instead of loud reactions. And slowly, bit by bit, you stop being triggered. You stop feeling shaken. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Let them talk, let them act out, let them be whoever they are. You stay centered because your peace was never part of the deal. It was never up for discussion. Your peace is yours and yours alone. That sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things to fully believe because it means you stop blaming. It means you stop saying, he ruined my day or she made me mad. No one controls your emotions unless you hand them the keys. People will disappoint you, irritate you, even insult you. That's part of being alive. But if your emotions rise and fall based on what other people say or do, then your peace is at their mercy. And once you give it away, you've lost your power. Real peace doesn't come from having quiet surroundings. It comes from choosing stillness in the middle of noise. It's not about getting people to act right. It's about deciding how much space their actions take up in your mind. Every time someone is rude and you lose your temper, you're reinforcing the belief that your peace is fragile, that it depends on others being kind. But real peace, lasting peace, doesn't need ideal conditions. It comes from within. You can choose calm instead of chaos. You can choose silence over reacting. You can choose compassion over judgment. And none of that means you let things slide or allow others to disrespect you. It just means you've grown wise enough to choose how and when to respond. A reaction is quick, unfiltered, emotional. A response is calm, clear, thoughtful. That kind of response only comes when you've made peace your responsibility. That internal calm gives you strength, even in hard moments. Even when someone tries to push your buttons. If peace is something you claim and protect, no one else gets to disturb it. Their attitude might knock on the door, but you don't have to let it in. Owning your peace also means creating habits that defend it. You walk away from fights that won't go anywhere. You set limits with those who drain you. You know when to speak and when silence says more. You don't explain yourself every time someone misjudges you. When peace is yours, you stop chasing approval. You trust your own sense of what feels right. You stop needing everyone to treat you a certain way just to feel okay. It becomes a daily choice, a habit of checking in with yourself, noticing what sets you off, and deciding not to give your power away. It's not about being emotionally flat. It's about emotional strength. When you own your peace, you stop waiting for the world to slow down or make sense. You bring your stillness wherever you go. What others do is their story. What you do with it, that's your power. And it's not easy, especially when people cross a line, when they lie about you, disrespect you, push all the wrong buttons. The urge to respond is strong, to correct the record, to defend your name. But if you let every offense stir your emotions, you're still not free. You're still controlled by the outside world. People act from their own stories, their fears, their insecurities, their old wounds. A lot of what they say or do has nothing to do with you. But if you take it all personally, you'll carry a weight that was never yours. Someone ignores you, you feel small. A friend cancels, you feel rejected. A stranger insults you, you feel hurt. But what if none of those things were really about you? What if the person ignoring you was overwhelmed? What if your friend had a hard day and didn't know how to say so? What if that stranger was dealing with their own pain? If you pause and consider those possibilities, you take back control. You get to choose peace over reaction. That mindset doesn't mean you let people off the hook. It means you stop tying your emotions to them. You can hold someone accountable and still keep your peace. You can say, this isn't okay, without yelling. You can leave the room, the relationship, the situation, without carrying bitterness with you. That's emotional maturity. It's understanding that your reaction is always your choice, even when they're wrong, even when they're unfair. You're not letting them win. You're choosing not to lose yourself. When you really get that their actions are their own, you stop needing to explain yourself all the time. You let go of the need to correct every false belief. You realize some people will be wrong about you, and that's okay. Your self-worth isn't up for public debate. It's not shaped by others' opinions. It's shaped by your own clarity and truth. Taking responsibility for your emotions doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful. It helps you choose how to respond with calm, not from hurt. That's your strength. not in how loudly you speak, but how deeply you remain centered. People will come and go with their energy. Some will lift you up, some will drain you, but they're not yours to manage. You're yours to manage. And when you truly know that, you stop grasping for control and start walking in peace. Silence is one of the most underrated powers you have. It doesn't shout. It doesn't seek praise. But in a world that pulls at your attention, your emotion, your reaction, silence protects you. Someone insults you, your instinct is to hit back. Someone misunderstands you, your ego wants to explain. The pressure to speak, to prove, to defend, it's constant, but you don't have to respond to every knock. You don't have to invite chaos in. Sometimes the most powerful move is to stay quiet, to stay still, and to stay in peace, to defend your pride. But silence, intentional, calm, steady silence, breaks that pattern. It lets you step out of the emotional back and forth and into a space of clarity. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've grown beyond the need to react to everything. There's a kind of silence that comes from fear or self-doubt. That's not the one we're speaking of. The silence that holds real power is the kind you choose when you know speaking in that moment would only add more noise, not more understanding. It's the kind of silence that gives you room to watch instead of absorb. When you take a moment instead of reacting instantly, you allow yourself the chance to see the situation more clearly. You're no longer responding by someone else's rules. You're grounded in your own center. Sometimes people will try to get a reaction out of you just to feel like they have control. They want you upset, emotional, thrown off, because that gives them the upper hand. But when you choose silence, you confuse that expectation. They were ready for a fight and you brought stillness. They wanted drama and you brought calm. They wanted power over you and you didn't let them take it. That kind of silence shifts the whole energy. It gives the power back to you without you needing to raise your voice. Silence protects your self-respect. There are moments when no matter what you say, it won't be received. Moments when someone has already made up their mind, already closed their ears, already shut off their heart. Talking in that moment is like trying to shout through a storm. It doesn't land where it needs to. But silence leaves room for reflection. Silence says, I don't need to argue for what I know is already true. And often that kind of silence speaks louder than words ever could. Choosing silence is also an act of honoring yourself. It's you saying, my peace matters more than being right in this moment. It's you saying, I don't need to prove anything to feel powerful. I already am. It gives you space to come back to the situation later if you need to, from a place of balance instead of emotional reaction. It lets you think it through in your own way. And most of the time, when you revisit it with a calmer heart, you see you didn't need to say anything at all. There's strength in not needing the last word. There's power in walking away without having to prove a point. There's confidence in knowing that your silence isn't weakness. It's clarity in motion, because once you stop needing to react to every emotional trigger, you start taking back your emotional control, moment by moment, pause by pause. The space between the trigger and your reaction is where real growth happens. That tiny space, a breath, a blink, a single heartbeat can change everything. Most people don't even notice it's there. They get triggered and jump right into reacting. Someone offends them and they snap. Someone pushes a button and they lash out. Someone disagrees and they shut down. It's all automatic. But growth doesn't live in the automatic, it lives in the intentional. And that pause is your chance to be intentional. That pause is a doorway. On one side is the old you, the one that reacts out of habit, out of fear, out of ego. On the other side is your wiser self, the one who responds with thought, with steadiness, with clarity. Every time you pause, you're choosing who gets to lead, and no one can make that choice for you. People will test you, push you, provoke you, maybe even disrespect you, but how you respond is still your choice. That's what makes the pause so powerful. It gives you back the control that most people don't even realize they've given away. Think about how many things go wrong just because someone couldn't pause. Fights that exploded, relationships that ended, texts that were sent in anger, words that can't be taken back. So many of those things could have gone differently if someone had taken one small pause. That moment to breathe, to check in with themselves and ask, is this worth it? Am I speaking from my truth or from my feelings? What do I really want to come from this? That 1 second of awareness can save you hours, days, even years of regret. This doesn't mean you bury your feelings. It means you run them through your wisdom first. You honor what you feel, but don't let it drive your behavior. You let that pause catch the emotions before they spill into damage. You let it cool the fire before it spreads. That's not shutting down. That's emotional leadership. It's the line between emotional confusion and emotional intelligence. The more you practice the pause, the easier it becomes. At first, it might feel strange. You might feel a storm rising inside you because you're not reacting like you used to, but that's exactly what growth feels like. A little uncomfortable, a little unfamiliar, but completely necessary. Eventually, the pause becomes part of your rhythm. It becomes your safety net. You begin to notice the moments that used to set you off. You hear that quiet voice in your head that says, not every comment needs a reply. Not every insult needs a war. And in that space, something powerful happens. You get to decide who you are, not based on the chaos of the moment, but based on the calm you're learning to live from. You stop being reactive. You start being thoughtful. You move from acting out of survival to living with purpose. That's where real peace comes from. Not from trying to control everything outside you, but from mastering what's happening inside you, one breath at a time. Emotional detachment isn't being cold, it's being clear. A lot of people confuse detachment with being numb, distant, or uncaring. But real detachment isn't about avoiding your emotions. It's about allowing yourself to feel everything without letting it overtake you. It's being able to witness what's going on around you without losing your balance. It's the ability to see someone else's storm and not get caught in the wind. It's the discipline to keep your peace when things around you are messy, heavy, or painful. When you're tied too tightly to outcomes, to opinions, to how others behave, you're setting yourself up for emotional exhaustion. You give your power to everything and everyone outside of you. If they validate you, you feel worthy. If they dismiss you, you feel invisible. If they argue, you get pulled into it. That's a life led by the outside world. But when you practice emotional detachment, you step back, you say, I see this, but I don't have to carry it. You create a space between what happens and how you feel. And in that space, you protect your mental and emotional clarity. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop holding on too tightly to what you can't control. You don't have to take in every feeling that's thrown your way. You don't have to fix everyone. You don't have to lose yourself in trying to gain someone's approval. You can love without clinging. You can care without drowning. That's what emotional balance looks like. One of the strongest gifts of detachment is that it lets you truly listen. When you're not clouded by your own reactions, you can hear what's being said more clearly. You can see the truth underneath the noise. You can take in feedback without letting it crush you. You can be there for others without making their problems your burden. That kind of clarity shifts everything. It helps you move through life with understanding instead of old wounds. People might not always understand your calm. They may think you're distant or uncaring, but that's only because they're used to chaos. They're used to quick reactions, raised voices, dramatic replies. When you bring stillness, it feels unfamiliar, but that's not your responsibility. Your job is to protect your own clarity, to stay steady, to stay kind, to stay aware even when everything around you is pulling you into the storm. Emotional detachment gives you the power to show up with love and boundaries, to care without being consumed, to say goodbye without bitterness, to stay peaceful even when others are still struggling to find their own peace. And once you learn to live from that place, you realize you don't need to win every debate, earn every compliment, or carry pain that was never yours to begin with. You just need to stay grounded in the version of yourself that peace has been quietly helping you become. Forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. That's something most people don't realize until they've carried hurt for far too long. You believe that by holding onto the pain, you're somehow keeping the other person accountable. You think your anger is justice. You go over what they said, how they treated you, what they never owned up to, thinking your pain teaches them a lesson, but it doesn't. It only teaches you suffering. It keeps you trapped in a moment that's already in the past. It turns one hurtful event into a wound you live with every day. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means you're not going to let it live inside you anymore. Holding on to hurt might feel powerful for a little while. It can feel like armor, like protection, like a story that keeps your guard up. But over time, that same pain starts to spread. It leaks into your happiness, your relationships, your ability to trust. It shows up in how you love others, how you talk to yourself, how you let others get close. And often, the person who hurt you, they're not even thinking about it anymore. They've moved on, but you're still stuck in the wound. Letting go isn't losing, it's healing. It's saying you no longer have the right to take up space in my thoughts, in my peace, in my story. That's real power. That's freedom.